Hello everyone, welcome to my channel. Pharmacology is my passion. Okay, this is my channel name. Pharmacology is my passion. Okay, so today we will start with the topic pharmacodynamics. Before starting my topic, I would like to say thanks to everyone who is showing their support to my channel, and it really means a lot to me. And please keep supporting me. Okay, thank you very much, each and everyone. Okay, let's start with the topic pharmacodynamics. So here we will see the pharmaco means drug. Okay, I think everyone knows about it, and dynamics means effect. Okay, so pharmacodynamics simply means drug effect, simply. Okay, so what does drug to the body? Okay, what does drug to the body? What does drug to the body? So it's a drug effect to the body is called as pharmacodynamics. So simple. Here we will see in little more detail. Pharmacodynamics is the study of the drug mechanism that produces the biochemical or physiological changes in the body. Okay. Then the interaction at the cellular level between a drug and the cellular component such as the complex protein that make up the cell membrane, enzyme, target receptors represent the drug action. The response resulting from this drug action is the drug effect. Okay. So this is the drug effect. It is the cell that matters. So I'll explain this. A drug can modify cell function or rate of function, but it cannot impart a new function to the cell or to the target tissue. Okay. Therefore, the drug effect depend on what the cell is capable of accomplishing. Okay. So, to depend upon what the cell is capable of doing. Okay. What the cell is capable of achieving. So, on this, the drug effect depends. A drug can alter the target cell's function by modifying the cell's physical or chemical environment. Okay, and or the another way is interacting with a receptor, a specialized location on the cell membrane or inside the cell. Okay, so this is here we see here we studied already about the definition of pharmacodynamics. Little more details and the cell involved and how the cell are playing their role in the drug function and how the drug is affecting the cell functions. So these all are the topic which we covered till now here. Now, agonist drug. Okay, agonist drug is simply what? The drug or substance which shows same pharmacological action. Okay, as the substance that normally binds to the receptor. So, the agonists are the drugs which show the same pharmacological response, okay, to that particular receptor, okay, to which that substance normally binds and show the response. Means the response of a substance which normally bind to that receptor is same as the response of that drug or substance which bind to that receptor. So, in short, we can say it support the effect of the substance or the drug which bind to the receptor. So, this kind of same pharmacological action showing drug or substance is called as agonist drug. Okay, antagonist drug, not same pharmacological action. Okay, before moving to antagonist, we will see in more detail about agonist drug. So many drugs work by stimulating or blocking the drug receptor. Okay. A drug attracted to a receptor display an affinity for the receptor. Okay. It shows the affinity to the receptor. And when the drug display an affinity for a receptor and stimulate it, the drug act as an agonist. So agonist, what it doing? It stimulate the receptor. Okay, so that called the agonist, and drug act as the drug act as a agonist, and agonist bind to the receptor and produces the response and agonists bind to the receptor and produce a response. This ability to initiate a response after binding with the receptor is referred to as intrinsic activity. Okay, so here is a two thing which we have to keep in our mind. When the drug display an affinity for a receptor and stimulated, the drug act as an agonist. So which kind of drug is we are calling as an agonist drug, which is showing the affinity for that particular receptor and stimulating that receptor. So that called as agonist receptor. Okay. Another point, an agonist bind to the receptor. Now what agonist is doing? It's directly bind to the receptor and start producing the response. And this ability to initiate the response after binding to the receptor refers to the intrinsic activity. Antagonist drug, not same pharmacological action. It's completely opposite to the pharmacological action of that drug or substance which normally bind to that particular receptor. So if a drug has an affinity for a receptor but display little or no intrinsic activity, it is called as antagonist. Okay, an antagonist prevent a response from occurring. It's stopping the response. Okay, stopping or preventing the response from occurring. Okay, so that kind of substance is called as antagonist. Reversible or irreversible. So that antagonists are of two types, either reversible antagonists or irreversible. So it can be, antagonists can be competitive or non-competitive as well. A competitive antagonist compete with the agonist for the receptor side, because this type of antagonist bind reversibly to the receptor side, and administering the larger dose of agonist can overcome the antagonist effect. So this is called as a competitive antagonist. What it's doing here, it compete with the agonist for a receptor side. So agonist and antagonist, okay, they both are doing competition. In a simple language I am telling. Okay, competition for what? For binding to the particular receptor. Okay, for binding to the particular receptor. So competitive antagonists compete with the agonist for a receptor site, because this type of antagonist bind reversibly to the receptor site. This type of antagonist bind reversibly. Okay, so response is reversible. Okay, because this type of antagonist bind reversibly to the receptor side, administering the larger dose of agonist, if we are administering a larger dose of agonist, okay, can overcome the antagonist effect. Okay, so it's reversible. In a simple language we can say it's a reversible. The action for that kind of antagonist is reversible. A non-competitive antagonist bind to the receptor side and block the effect of agonist. Even we are administering the larger dose of agonist, it cannot reverse the antagonist action. It's very simple to understand. Okay. So now we will study regarding the receptor. Okay. So what we will study here? We will study about regarding the receptor. So now let's start with the receptor. Okay. So we will study here about the receptor. What is receptor? Receptors definition we are seeing here. Okay, the binding site, okay, in which a drug attach and then activate it and give a pharmacological response. So receptor is what? It's a binding site. It's a binding site in which the drug is attached and then it activate it and give a pharmacological response. Okay. And receptor is based upon the lock and key mechanism. Here, see, this is the receptor, this is a drug. Every drug have its particular receptor. Okay, like particular lock is opened by the particular key, or particular lock is closed by the particular key, because it's set to each other. Okay, it can be, we can say like there is a proper site for that particular. There is a proper receptor site for each and every drug, we can say. Okay, so we cannot say that every drug is going to bind to only a single receptor. It's not like that. For each and every drug, there is a proper binding site, or there is a proper receptor where that particular drug binds. So this mechanism is completely based upon a lock and key mechanism, okay, which we will discuss later in more detail. Okay, so see, here's the binding site for that particular drug. So receptor, once the drug binds to the receptor, it shows the action. Simple. So if a drug acts on a variety of receptor, it's said to be non-selective. There are some drugs which bind to the multiple receptor. So it's not, that kind of drug is called as non-selective drugs. But there are some drugs which bind to their specific receptor. So that called as selective drugs. Okay. So it's said to be non-selective and can cause a multiple and widespread effect, because if if a single drug binding to the multiple receptors, so definitely it will show the multiple effect. Okay. In addition, some receptors are classified further by their specific effect. For example, beta receptor typically produce increased heart rate and bronchial relaxation, as well as other systemic effect. See here, we are seeing. Okay. So stimulate the beta receptor and I am liking to speed up. Okay. Okay. Beta receptor, however, can be further divided into the beta 1 receptor, which act primarily on the heart, and beta 2 receptor, which act primarily on the smooth muscles and gland cells. Okay. Now moving towards the potent drug or potency. So potency is it's very simple definition. Potency is simply a response by a drug is called potency. Okay. Drug potency refers to the relative amount of a drug required to produce a desired response. And drug potency is also used to compare two drugs. If a drug X produces the same response as a drug Y, but at the lower dose, if the drug X is producing the same response at low dose, okay, compared to drug Y. Okay, so drug X is more potent than drug Y. Okay, so as its name, then drug X is more. Okay, so drug potency is also used to compare the two drugs. If drug X produces the same response as drug Y, but at the lower dose, then drug X is more potent than drug Y. As its name implies, a dose response curve is used to graphically represent the relationship between the dose of a drug and its response produces. Okay, let's come to the graph. Okay, here we can see. Now I get it. Means through this graph, definitely you all will understand about the drug potency and dose response curve. So we will see here the dose response curve, and it's very important to understand. Okay, now so this graph show the first we will see the graph. See here, this is the dose and this is the percentage of maximum response. Okay, so these are the dose of the drugs and this is the response. See, this is the drug X and this is the drug Y. So what is happening here? See, this graph shows the dose response curve for two different drugs. As you can see, at low dose of each drug, okay, a dose increases result in only a small increase in a drug response. For example, from point A to point B for drug X. Okay, like here we increases the dose, so there is a little increase in the drug response from point A to point B. At higher dose, see here we are talking about. Okay, now at higher dose, an increase in a doses produces a much greater response. Means if we increase the dose, it produces a much greater response from point B to point C. See, If like suddenly the dose is increased, and what happened? Response is also increased. Okay. As the dose continue to climb, however, an increase in dose produces a very little increase in response from point C to point B. So if we keeps on increasing the dose, it doesn't mean the response will increase like the same way. So here we can see we increases the dose, but the response is not increases that much. So this graph also show that drug X is more potent than drug Y. Why? Because it produces the same response but at a lower dose. We have to compare the point A to point E. Now let's see point A. So point A for drug X and point E for drug Y. So here, so drug A is showing the more response as compared to the drug X is showing the more response than drug Y at low dose. So drug X is more potent than drug Y at lower dose. This graph also shows the drug X is more potent than drug Y because it produces the same response but at lower dose. Okay, so this is important. Please, if you have any confusion, please ask me in a comment box. I will explain you in more detail, and if you want any notes also, I will share you the notes also. So if you need the notes, please let me know. Okay, so we finish about this dose response curve. Okay, now the maximum effect. Okay, maximum effect. We will see the maximum effect. So on the dose response curve, a low dose usually corresponds to the low response, which just we saw on the graph. At a low dose, a dose increases produces only a slight increase in response. Okay, yes, fine. With further doses increases, the drug response rises markedly. Okay, so like it's saying like at low dose response is low. Okay, when we increase the dose increases we increase little dose, then response is also increase slightly. But with further dose increases, okay, the drug response rises, which is markable, which we can notice. Okay, after a certain point, however, an increase in dose, but it doesn't mean, as I already told you, doesn't mean if we keep on increasing a dose at very high level, so it will give you the more and more response. No, it will get saturated at some point. Okay, however, an increase in a dose little or no increase in after a certain point, when we are increasing too much of doses, that doesn't mean it will increase your response. So that's the same point it's written here. After a certain point, however, an increase in dose little or no increase in response. So it's saying here we will increase the dose So what will happen after a certain point? Either the response will increase a little or no increase. At this point, the drug is said to have reached its maximum effectiveness. Okay, so at this point, we can say that the drug has reached its maximum effectiveness. Okay, so now margin of safety. We will discuss here the margin of safety. Okay. Okay, most drug produces the multiple effect. Okay, most drug produces the multiple effect. Okay, this relationship between a drug desired therapeutic effect and its adverse effect is called as drug therapeutic index. It's also referred to as its margin of safety. The therapeutic index usually measures the difference between an effective dose for 50% of the patient treated and the minimal dose at which adverse reaction occur. Okay, so what is happening here? Drugs with a narrow or the low therapeutic index have a narrow margin of safety. This means that there is a narrow range of safety between an effective dose and a lethal one. On the other hand, a drug with a high therapeutic index has a wide margin of safety and possesses a less risk of toxic effect. It's very simple. It's showing drug with a narrow or low therapeutic index. The drug with a low therapeutic index What will happen if any drug having a low therapeutic index, then the margin of safety will be low for that drug. How? Here it's mentioned, drug with a narrow or low therapeutic index have a narrow margin of safety. This means that there is a narrow range of safety between an effective dose and a lethal one. On the other hand, drug with a high therapeutic index has a wide margin of safety and possesses a less risk of toxic effects. So till here we finished the major point of pharmacodynamics. So from my next class I will start with the pharmacotherapeutics. Okay, so thanks for watching my channel. Thanks for watching my all videos. Please keep on watching, and if you have any query you can ask me in the comment box. Thank you so much. Please like, share and subscribe my channel, and if you have any comment, please, if you have any question, you can ask me in the comment box. Thank you so much.